For 250 years, the U.S. Army has defended its people, land, and the American way of life. At the dawn of our nation, farmers, craftsmen, and patriots stood against the mightiest empire in the world. These citizen soldiers took up arms to fight for independence and prevailed. At Lexington and Concord and through the bitter winter at Valley Forge, the Army fought for and secured our nation's freedom. 30 years later, in the War of 1812, the Army faced another test as British forces marched on our young republic. At Fort McHenry, under relentless bombardment, the Army held firm. "This will defend" was not just a rallying cry, it was a promise that ensured the sovereignty of our country. Then, the greatest test of all, the Civil War, pitted brother against brother in a nation divided. The Army fought not just for land, but for the preservation of the Union and for freedom. At Gettysburg, at Antietam, and beyond, they defended their belief in a unified country, which shaped the future of our nation. In the bloodiest battles of the 20th century, American soldiers answered the call, fighting wherever liberty was at risk. In 1917, as the world was consumed by war, the U.S. Army entered a conflict like no other. In the trenches of France, soldiers faced barbed wire, poison gas, and relentless artillery. At Cantigny, they launched their first major assault. At Saint-Mihiel, they executed a swift and decisive attack, proving American strength. And during the Meuse-Argonne offensive, the largest battle in U.S. history, they shattered enemy lines, helping bring the war to its end. In 1941, when the world plunged into war yet again, the Army was ready. From the deserts of North Africa to the hedgerows of France, from the islands of the Pacific to the streets of Berlin, U.S. soldiers carried the weight of the free world. On June 6, 1944, they stormed the beaches of Normandy, charging through the surf and gunfire, and climbing cliffs against overwhelming odds. Victory was never certain, but they fought fiercely and triumphed. Their fight wasn't just for America, it was for millions silenced by tyranny. 5 years after World War II, another struggle for freedom erupted. In Korea, the Army faced not only a determined enemy, but brutal winters and impossible odds. In the Battle of Incheon, their fierce fighting forced the North Korean Army to retreat. At the Pusan perimeter, they held the line. And in the frozen hills of Chosin, they fought with every ounce of strength to defend liberty. But peace was fleeting. In the 1960s, as tensions escalated in Southeast Asia, the Army was called to Vietnam. In the dense jungles, soldiers fought a relentless battle against an elusive enemy. The Army's strength was on display in the Battle of Le Drang, where soldiers held firm under extreme conditions. In the face of uncertainty, the Army showed unwavering commitment to their mission. In 1990, the Army was called to the Middle East as Iraq threatened to dominate its neighbors. From the deserts of Saudi Arabia to the streets of Kuwait, soldiers launched a decisive offensive, pushing back the forces of tyranny and restoring peace. In just 100 hours, the Army's swift and overwhelming force liberated Kuwait, proving the might of American power and determination. Then, in 2001, the world changed. The attacks on September 11th set in motion a new era of conflict. The U.S. Army stood at the forefront of the global war on terrorism, fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq. In the mountains of Tora Bora, soldiers pursued those responsible for the attacks. And in the streets of Baghdad, soldiers faced an insurgency determined to tear the region apart. Their commitment never wavered as soldiers confronted each new trial, ensuring the security of America and its allies in a world that had been forever altered. The nature of war changed, and so did the Army. Today, the Army stands ready for whatever is next. Faster, smarter, and more lethal than ever. Battle-tested and constantly evolving, today's Army thrives under pressure. Across every domain, land, air, sea, space, and cyber, the Army remains ready and engaged. Through training and transformation, the Army ensures soldiers are equipped, empowered, and prepared to win against any adversary. Artificial intelligence and advanced weapons are changing the way we fight. But our foundation stays the same, the warrior ethos. Mission first. Never quit. Never accept defeat. Never leave a fallen comrade. Wherever the need, soldiers show up to fight and to serve, ensuring the safety and security of the nation. The Army's legacy lives in those who step forward. And the next chapter? It belongs to those who are ready to lead, to adapt, and make the same promise that every soldier makes to the nation and its people. This will defend.